Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the What's Making Money Now show. I am your host, Tim Mai, aka Dr. Do Deals. I'm really excited to have you on the show today. This show is about, what is working, what's making money for all the different investors out there that I interview, and what's working in their market area, so that way you can learn that and apply that and make money with that in your own area. And also, if you haven't done any deals yet, well, use this as an opportunity to get inspired and get into action and implement what these awesome investors that we interview are doing. Especially today's investor. Today we have Juliet on the line with us, and she's out of Vienna, Virginia, and she's an awesome investor doing different things than most other investors are doing. Some very unique things, very profitable, and one of the things I like about her types of deals is that she gets paid multiple times in the deal, multiple parts of the deals, and so she's gonna explain all of that to us. And so with that, let's welcome Juliet. Juliet, why don't you start with sharing with everybody a little bit about yourself, your background. Are you a mom? Are you single?
No, I'm certainly a mom. I have two small children. I've got an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old. Or actually, no, he just turned 3. So I like real estate investing because it's flexible. Because I get to be home in the afternoon when my child gets home from school, and I'm able to be there, most of the day with them when they actually have to take off from school. So real estate investing has been a perfect fit for my family.
Got it.
So I've been investing for about 5 years now. Things started off slow in the beginning, just like every new investor, just kind of, oiling the wheels, trying to figure out what the best strategy is. And within the past 2 years, I've actually had quite a bit of success. So it really took me a couple of years to get going. I focus on 3 separate things. One I'm going to focus on more in this conversation, but just so you know what I do and how I do it. I focus on wholesaling. That's one thing I do. It's not as good as it was a couple of years back, just because there aren't as many home buyers out there to buy the rehab properties. So the wholesaling isn't going as well. But with that, I basically am a wholesale property syndicator. So I work with other wholesalers to bring their deals to a large list of buyers that I have in the area. One thing that's great for investors to remember is that networking is key. That's really what I built my wholesaling business off of. The fact that I've been collecting cards and talking to people and going to RIAs is what I built my wholesaling business off of. And without those contacts, that business would not exist for me. So that's pretty cool. I do maybe 1 or 2 deals a month that way. I also am a landlord. I own 5 properties of my own. We're trying to grow that still, although sometimes landlording can be very frustrating. So, on those days where it's frustrating, I just don't want any more properties anymore. So it depends what's going on in the business, whether or not I want to grow that or not. But the main thing that I do is lease options and contract for deed. I work for a company called Rent to Own Market. And we are a national company, but we were started here in the Springfield, Virginia area. That's where our headquarters are. So over the past couple of years, I've really been focusing on that and putting most of my energies towards that.
Got it. Okay. And so you mentioned that you about 2.5 years ago when things started to turn for you. Like what happened? What was the difference?
Well, I think one of the major difference was that I joined other investors doing something. Doing stuff on your own can be really hard. You don't have the momentum. You don't have the support. When you have questions, you get scared. So I joined a group of investors that was already doing stuff and hooked into that and was able to bring my expertise and skills to that group. And together, we really worked on building this business. So I think one of the main things as an investor you need to do is hook up with someone. Hook up with someone who knows what they're doing, or even if they're struggling, let them struggle along with you. Because having a team is imperative in this business.
That's a great point. Okay, so find other investors in the local market area, partner up with them, joint venture with them,
Yeah.
At least do the first couple of deals with them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really think that's what changed my career from just owning a few properties and trying to do some wholesaling to actually putting my career in a track that now I have a plan and I know what I'm doing and I'm experienced enough that I'm not scared anymore.
Got
But
it.
it
Okay.
definitely took the first couple of years to get there.
Got it. Okay. And so, what made you even get started in real estate investing? Like, how did you get started?
I have no idea. It must have been something, I don't know. Some people like houses and some people don't. I don't know what it is, but it's always been something I was interested in even younger. I probably read an article at some point in the New York Times that said real estate is the way to, grow wealth over time. And it probably ticked something off in my head. So ever since then, I've been interested, but I can't remember that defining moment where I said, this is what I want to do.
Got it. Okay. And all right. So when is it that you first started to try to do real estate?
It
How
was
long ago?
about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
I lived in Austin, Texas. I started going to a RIA. It was actually a very, very small RIA at that time. There was probably only 10 of us. And I, bought Ron LeGrand's courses, the retail wholesaling course.
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, that's when my interest really started being generated fully. But I wasn't very good at wholesaling, and we were at the time in the market in Austin. I don't know what year this was, but a lot of people were. It was like when the .com bust happened, so everyone became a real estate investor.
Mm.
And in Austin, Texas, the market isn't very big. So I'd walk up to a house, I would knock on doors and stuff to do some wholesaling stuff or even do a rehab myself. And there'd be like, yeah, 5 other people came by today. So it was a very, very competitive marketplace. So I kind of hung back and then decided to buy some properties there, but then ended up moving and didn't buy those properties. So once I hit the ground here in Virginia, after we all moved in and everything, I started working on my business again, and that's really where, the successes started. My first year or so in Austin, I didn't do very well.
Got it. Got it. Okay. And so since you got started in Virginia until now, about how many deals do you think you have done?
I'd like to say maybe 30 or 40.
Okay, that's pretty
Um,
good for the last 2.5 years.
yeah, 30 or 40, give or take. That's kind of a guesstimate.
Okay. And so how many deals are you on track to do now per month?
Well, it depends on the month. And it depends on basically what's going on in my life as well, because as I said, the flexibility is important. So if something's going on with family or something, I kind of slow down. My goal is 2 a month right now.
Mm-hmm.
One at least with rent to own market and then one wholesale deal.
Okay.
And then I'm going to be hopefully procuring some additional buy and hold properties too. So we'll throw a couple of those in there as well.
Got it.
I mean, I
Okay.
like to work hard, but I also need to maintain work-life balance because I would have the tendency to just work, 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 work. I have to pull myself back to make sure that I'm, upholding my responsibilities as a wife and mother and
Right.
caretaker of my own home.
That's a typical entrepreneur syndrome, right?
Yeah, so I kind of have to hold back a little bit. I probably would do more if I could work as much as I'd like to, but, you know,
I, I,
family values.
right. Well, another idea just to throw out there is get your families involved, right? So take them out to go look at the houses with you.
Oh
And
yeah, my kids. It's funny. My daughter, when she was about 4, she'd go in, and this is an ugly house, right, mommy? They're like, yes, it's an ugly house. She's like, it smells in here, and I'm like, yes, it smells in here. And she began to recognize the difference between pretty and ugly houses. It was really funny.
that's
But
cool.
they do come along sometimes just because, they're home from school. I don't have a sitter, so they do come along. They visit the tenants, that sort of stuff.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, it's good that they're learning that young, so when they get older, they have all of that skill set behind them. So,
Yeah, I'd like a legacy to leave for them at some point. That's kind of what we're building. And, my goal would be later on to go into more commercial stuff, own buildings, that sort of stuff. I'm not quite ready for that yet though.
got it, got it. Okay. And so what is your, I guess, what is your average profit per deal with wholesaling? And what's your average profit per deal with the rent-to-own lease option stuff?
Okay,
or
so
contract for deed?
Since I'm a syndicator, I charge a flat fee.
Okay.
So usually, and the reason I do that is to attract more business. I felt as though I could do maybe one deal a month or less if I would go in for the half-half kind of wholesale fee. So I charge $2,000 or $3,000 a deal on that side.
Okay.
So, you know, that's pretty much the average profit. I'm thinking of raising my prices, though, because I'm a little bit too busy. So, and then with rent-to-own market, as I said, we do lease options and contract for deed. Really what we do more than anything is the contract for deed because there's a lot more benefits for buyers and sellers. With that type of deal, the income range can go up to, you know, $200,000 for a deal. It really depends on the terms. So as I mentioned to you when we spoke, you know, we get some money up front, we get some money through the term, and then we get some money at the back end. So, you know, the success of that deal is important on the profit. So you can get someone in, but they may not complete the deal, so then you wouldn't have those back end profits. But literally, the average profit per deal is probably between $100,000 and $200,000.
Wow.
When everything works out well. And of course, as part of a company, I split that with the company.
Wow, that's awesome. So
yeah, it's a great business model.
Yeah, I love it. So can you help us to help the audience especially to understand that deal more? And so let's break it down from beginning to the end.
Okay.
What happened? So number one, how do you find these deals?
Well, most of them can be found online. So we don't do a lot of expensive marketing. I've done some stuff in the past just to try it out. I've sent postcards. I put an ad in a church bulletin. I've advertised on Zillow. I've advertised on LinkedIn. I've done pay-per-click stuff with Google, that sort of stuff. But what I've really found is you don't need to pay to find these leads. They're everywhere. They're in our networks. I find a lot of leads at RIAs. You know, other real estate investors that may have a property, perhaps a rehab that they haven't been able to sell. Now they're considering to holding it. So that would be a candidate. We find a lot on Craigslist, other rental and for sale by owner websites, and then reach out to those folks to, you know, bring them into the program.
So both for sale by owners and for rent by owners are good leads for these type of deals.
Yeah, and sometimes we get leads from realtors and property managers and mortgage brokers as well.
Got it. Okay.
So there's actually 90 people in our company. We all kind of have different techniques for driving leads. I personally like emailing them or calling them off of Craigslist or for rent by owner kind of website.
Got it. Okay. So you find the leads online for free for sell by owners, for rent by owners. You contact them and you ask them if they would be interested in what?
Rent to own, usually.
Rent to own. Okay.
We briefly describe the benefits to them, such as no vacancies, no more maintenance expenses, no realtor commissions or fees. And basically our sellers are able to get a premium sales price. That's what mostly attracts them. So sometimes we'll come across someone who, you know, is underwater on their mortgage, they need to move, they don't want to short sell because they don't want to hit on their credit. So those are the type of people who are attracted to our program. So our sellers are actually able to set their monthly amount, their sales price, and their sales term. And that's very attractive to them. And we're able to offer our programs for free. So there's really nothing to lose in our program.
Okay. And then do you look specifically for properties that are in great condition, that they don't need any repairs or anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, we prefer pretty properties. We prefer properties that are in good moving condition. Sometimes we do get some that need work, and then we have a fixer-upper program that we run them through, where basically they get credits as they perform the repairs, and that comes off the back-end price. But
for the buyers.
Yeah, so
okay.
So the best properties are those, you know, those typical bread and butter properties. Like in the DC area, our average value for a home is around 200 to 300, somewhere in there. So we try to search for properties that are in that price range, have three bedrooms, 2 baths, so a typical family could move in, you know, in an average rental value of maybe $1,500 to $2,500, and that's kind of average rental value in the DC area.
Okay. So so how do you find these buyers?
We are very blessed. Our company has been up and running for 8 years, and we have a great website, and buyers find us online. And we post ads on Craigslist and Backpage and Post Splits and all of that stuff also. But our website is well optimized, so when someone types into their computer rent-to-own Virginia, they see our website. And we're one of those companies that actually really does this. Like if you type in rent to own on, in your browser, you're going to find 10 different companies that say, if you give us, $10, we'll let you look at these properties. And then they end up all being foreclosures and not rent to own.
Got it.
Or, there are so many scams out there. So in this area, we're one of the few companies that actually does the work and actually makes it happen and is completely legitimate versus some of these others that are, not really where I would want to buy a home from.
Got it. Okay. And then how do you qualify these buyers? What are you looking for?
Well, we don't actually have any minimum qualifying criteria. So the way it works is that once a buyer has decided to come in on a property, we have them write a application, and that application we screen and share with the seller. So the seller is actually in the driver's seat. So they pick their terms and they pick their buyer. And that's particularly beneficial because sometimes people do a rent-to-own or a seller financing transaction where the middleman or the investor will say, okay, we got this guy, I'm going to move him in. Where the seller doesn't have any choice. But the problem with that is that if the deal fails, whose fault is it?
Right.
It's not my fault because I screened it and presented it to you.
Right.
Your fault. Versus me finding someone, putting them in, and then having them trash the place or, do whatever buyers or tenants would do. We do have a very low default rate, though, I should mention, because buyers have a different mentality than tenants. And so we have a very low default rate, but, life happens. Unfortunately, people lose jobs, get divorced, that sort of stuff. And sometimes some of these deals don't go fully through.
Got it. Yeah. All right. So, So now you found a seller online, and again, the buyer finds you online. Mm-hmm. You put the two of them together. Mm-hmm. And so how do you structure the transaction so you can get paid from that?
Well, so we do, in essence, a sandwich contract for deed. I mean, as I said, we do rent to own, lease options, and contract for deed or an installment sale, or we call it seller financing in our program. But basically, we do a typical sandwich contract for deed. And so we get the terms set up with the seller, and then we basically mark things up, pass on the terms to the buyer, so they sign their side of the paperwork. The seller signs their side of the paperwork, and we retain servicing, what's the word I'm looking for? Servicing rights. That's what it is. We retain servicing rights through the terms. So what happens is the buyer pays us, we take our money off the top, and then we pay the seller. And so that's kind of how it works on a monthly basis.
Okay, so you actually do a sandwich lease option, and mm-hmm. not where you connect the sellers and the buyer together, and you're just servicing the loan.
Well, I mean, it depends on what state it is, but for all intents and purposes, it's a sandwich contract for deed where we retain the servicing rights, and it basically says in the contract for deed that we have the servicing rights and we're not responsible for paying the seller unless the buyer pays.
Got it. That's what I was about to ask you. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, in some states we can do an assignment of contract for deed and then have separate servicing agreements. It really depends on the state, and anyone listening to it, you need to understand your state laws about how they expect this to be executed, because some states require you to record a contract for deed and they want to see it in a certain format. So you need to really understand what the laws are. And because we serve DC, Virginia, and Maryland here in our office, there's differences between each area that we need to be aware of. Got it.
Okay. And so, all right, so you explained to the seller pretty clearly that if this buyer defaults, mm-hmm. that the house will be vacant and the seller will not receive any payments.
Yes, they understand that.
Okay, and that you would put in another buyer as soon as possible.
That's what the goal would be.
Okay.
And that's what we typically do. Typically, because our buyers are buyers, they have a vested interest in the house. So if something's going to happen, a lot of times the buyer will alert us up front. Oh, I just lost my job. I can only pay for another month. Or I need this just happened to me. My dad's sick. I need to move to Arizona. Can you please help me get out of the contract? And that's not, we don't like to let people out of contracts, but if you don't let them out in a graceful manner, they may just default, and then you're in a bad situation. So typically what we'll do is start marketing the property again as soon as someone's in a bad situation. And as I said, default doesn't happen too often, but, it could happen. And then at the extreme case, they don't let us know, and then it ends up in some sort of eviction proceeding. So not typical. Once again, I've only been involved in one eviction over the past 2.5 years where I've been working with rent-to-own market. So it's not common at all. But, yeah, the seller pretty much understands, though, that it's, their responsibility.
Got it. That's awesome. Okay. And so, all right, so where you make your money is, number one, on the down payment that the buyer puts down.
Yes.
Right? Do you pay any of that to the seller at all?
It depends. We try not to. But sometimes sellers will say, oh, I need a security deposit. Now, security deposits don't really apply here because it's a buyer buying into a house.
Right.
So a security deposit kind of sounds silly because it's like you're expecting them to default. Because they're not supposed to leave the house until they purchase it. So most sellers don't get a deposit. Unless they're absolutely adamant, and then in some cases we will give a deposit if that's what we need to do to make the deal work. But yeah, so we have a deposit up front, and then we have our monthly spread, which includes some fees as well, and then we mark up the property at the back end and get some fees that way as well.
Got it. So what would you say is the typical down payment that you get?
It's usually 2 months down.
2 months down, okay.
Yeah, we usually try to make it affordable so that, we want it to be a win-win. We want the seller to get what they need, and we want the buyer to be able to get into a home that they can own. So we don't want to make it too expensive so it's not affordable.
But don't you want to make it more expensive so you can get a buyer that's more committed?
I don't know if down payment makes someone more committed. I'm not sure about that because that might just mean they have more disposable income, right? So to someone, different people, money matters differently, right? So for some people, $1,000 is a lot of money, but for some people, $10,000 is a lot of money. So I don't know if they become more committed with a bigger down payment. Our idea is that we're going to get you in here for 2 months down, just like getting into a rental, but yet you get all these home ownership benefits.
Okay, got it. I like that.
And with the economy the way it is too, people just don't have that money these days. That doesn't mean that we won't, when the economy turns, we won't try to collect more up front. But the economy is really rough.
Got it. Okay. So, all right. So you get them with 2 months, 2 months down payment, and then on the monthly spread, how much typically do you try to get on the spread?
It depends. Once again, it's usually between $200 and $300. Sometimes more based on fees, but it really depends on the particular property, what it's pricing out at, that sort of thing.
So what other fees are you adding on top of the rent? Servicing fee?
We have some other fees that they pay to get into the property. So those first 2 months goes towards those fees, and then they pay a little bit each month towards those fees.
Could you give me an example of what one of those fees are? Like what is that fee called?
We call it origination fees, but it's basically for us to put together the deal. So we charge them some fees up front, and then they pay the rest off through the term.
Origination fee. I like that. Okay. That changes the whole what the option fee is. So you don't call it an option fee at all. You call
it really is an option fee.
But you call it an origination fee.
And the reason we do that is because the IRS recognizes an installment sale as a kind of a pending buyer. And so they're able to deduct their interest payments and their origination fees from their taxes. So we're able to allow them to deduct those fees from their taxes by calling it that.
Ah, interesting. Okay. And well, I also like that too, because when they back out, they will less, trying to get that money back because they understand that money was an origination fee and not an option fee or deposit.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. I like that. All right. So, and then the price that they normally pay, is it around rent rates, or is it a little bit higher than rent rate?
It's a little bit higher than rent rates. So the seller will usually set their monthly amount around rental terms, and then we will mark it up. But because of the tax benefits, the cost to the buyer is usually less than rental.
Ah, okay. And so
they're getting actually a really good deal because they get to deduct these taxes. Let's say, they have a 25% tax rate and they're paying $1,000 a month of interest. They get a quarter of that back in their income taxes.
Okay, and so obviously you explained these to the buyers in the beginning.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the major benefits to the program.
I like that.
Not only you get to love your house and live in it and be in the house that you're going to own long term, you also get the same tax shelter as every other homeowner.
I like that. I love the way you guys structuring it. I mean, I've done a lot of lease options, and well, now the law changes in Texas, so we do wraparound mortgages. But yeah, I really like the way you're structuring yours. All right, and then so then on the back end, how much do you typically mark up on the back end?
Usually about 6%.
About 6%. Okay. So that's pretty fair.
Not a huge amount, just, enough to make some additional monies on the back end. Kind of like a realtor fee.
Right. Okay. That's pretty easy. Have you ever had a situation where the buyer is ready to refinance and cash you out, but the house doesn't appraise?
We haven't had that happen, but that is something that could happen. And if that happens, we kind of go back to negotiations. So the seller can either decide to lower the price or lengthen the term.
Got it.
A lot of sellers need to get what they're getting because they're underwater. And the whole reason they're doing this is to be able to pay off their bank in full. So a lot of times they need to get that price. That's why they set it. The thing is, it all depends on the market. We don't know what the market's going to do. We're very lucky here in D.C. because we're kind of seeing slight appreciation in several areas. But around the country, I mean, we're still seeing 12% down each year. Got
it. Okay, cool. So yeah, well, thank you so much for walking us through a whole deal like that. I really appreciate, your openness and willing to share that way. And so, let's talk about your very first deal. That's
okay.
I don't know. It was your first deal in Virginia? Was this your first deal in Austin?
Virginia.
Virginia. Okay. So you still remember it vividly?
Not really, actually.
Oh, really? I mean, most people remember their first deal.
No, I mean, my very first deal was I bought rental properties. So, and that was somewhat easy. I used to be a consultant, and my husband and I had kind of a bunch of savings that I used for real estate. So I went to a realtor, they showed me around, they bought a property, rehabbed it, put a tenant buyer in it, and that was my first deal. My first rent-to-own market deal, I don't really vividly remember. I remember my first time that I got a seller to agree to this, but I couldn't find a buyer for that property. So I don't know what the next one was after that. Like the first one that was really successful.
Uh-huh. Got it.
Just don't remember.
Got it. Okay. And so what happens when you have a property that you have a hard time finding a buyer?
Well, some sell and some don't. I mean, this is a volume job. So you need to get a lot of sellers to get maybe, like I say it's like 1 out of 3 sell.
One out of
Because
three. Okay.
because we don't set the terms, if a property is not priced well, it's not going to sell.
Right.
That's just the reality of it. Now, we do things to encourage the terms. For example, when we're talking to a seller, we'll do some research to find out the average rental value and, kind of a idea of what the sales price would be today. And, it's a rough estimate based on comps, based on Zillow appraisal, property assessment, that sort of thing. So, it's a rough estimate, and then, we kind of take that price and let's say they want $50,000 more, we'll tell them, you need a long enough term to actually get there. So, they'll go for 5-10 years terms in a lot of cases. But it's really the rental value or the monthly amount that they choose that drives the deal. So people are kind of in the mode of, what can I afford now?
Right.
Unfortunately, some of them don't worry about what can I afford when I have to actually purchase this house. A lot of them think about, what can I afford now, next month? So the rental price or the monthly amount is really what drives the success of a deal. And then, of course, if the property doesn't show well, that can also kind of sink a deal as well. So if it shows well and it's priced right, we usually can sell within 2 to 3 weeks.
Got it. Okay. Well, that's pretty good. 1 out of 3 sells and sells within 2 to 3 weeks. That's a good numbers.
It's not bad.
Okay. And you're saying that you're doing these rent-to-own type deals only in the Virginia, D.C., Maryland area?
That's where I do them, but we have account executives in our company. We're expanding our company. So we have new account executives coming in from different areas as well. So I think we've got a guy in New Jersey, got one in Rhode Island. We had one in Florida. I don't know if he's still active. I know we have a guy out in California. So they're doing the deals in those markets.
Are you typically looking for real estate agents to be your account executives or anybody?
I wouldn't say anybody. Because we as you know, a lot of real estate investors don't succeed. So we're looking for those who are self-motivated, can make a plan, can follow direction, that sort of stuff. Real estate agents are great because they understand the marketplace. Mm-hmm. We also have a lot of real estate investors that become our account executives, and they're great, because they usually have a good understanding of how the market works as well. So, a self-motivated real estate investor is really, the best account executive you could get.
Got it. And do they typically pay you some kind of fee to be that, or?
No, actually, oh yes, they do. I'm sorry, I didn't understand your question. Yeah, we actually ask them to buy into the company because they get an equity position in the company. So with the equity position, with the equity position, they also get profit sharing.
That's interesting. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. So as I said, we're expanding our partnership, and so anyone who would be interested can contact me, and I can tell them more about how everything works. And with our partnership, we have training, like online training. We have monthly meetings. We have one-on-one mentoring. We have workshops, marketing tools and materials they can use. So, we're a functioning business. We're not like selling a course or, a book or a mentoring program. We're a functioning business that someone can tap into. And as I said earlier, that's what made me successful, was coming into a functioning business that had a whole bunch of stuff. It didn't have as much stuff as it does now, but, having that team support is what changed the tides in my career.
What about liabilities? Are you concerned at all about them doing something wrong that might jeopardize the whole company?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We do our best to train everyone, in what to say, what not to say, how to do things. Our mentoring program really helps a lot with that, because the way it works is that there's a mentor and the new account executive, and the new account executive will be responsible for pulling leads somehow, like emailing people or calling people or advertising somehow. And then the mentor will get on the phone with the account executive and the seller, and basically present to the seller the first few, maybe 5, 10 times, so that the account executive knows what to say.
Mm.
So we're training people. We're not just throwing them out there willy-nilly. We're actually, going through the steps of training them so that they can understand exactly how the process works and how to, effectively bring in a lead and convert them from, someone who's interested to someone who's active and someone who becomes a seller in our program.
Got it. Okay. And do you care how many account executives in one market area?
No.
No.
No, because there's more than enough people out there. I mean, DC, we have like probably 80 people just in this area.
Wow.
And we rarely bump into each other, meaning we rarely pick on the same seller and the same buyer. Here is a very unique. Here is big. I mean, I couldn't tell you what the average population is in this area, but there are so many little towns and little nooks here and there for everyone to kind of get their piece of the pie.
Got it. That's interesting. So the number of deals you were telling me earlier was just for your personal, the personal number of deals that you do, right?
Yeah. I mean, one thing that's changed over the past year with Rent to Own Market is I've moved into a different role. So I'm a mentor and a trainer and a program manager within one of our entities. So I mentor and train more than I actually do my own deals now. So in those deals, I actually take a position in the deal alongside the account executive. So I'll get paid for a couple deals that the account executive does because of the mentoring.
Got it. Okay. That's really, really interesting. I love that business model. I think that's the first time I've heard about this business model. It's almost like combining real estate investing with the real estate brokerage business, of making money together. It's very interesting. My mind is turning. It's like, man, we can do a lot of things with this model.
Yeah, don't say that. My boss will get mad.
No, I mean, it's great because then, I mean, the people who are listening to this interview, I'm sure a lot of them are going to be contacting you guys and be interested in a part of what you're doing. So your ability to expand is amazing with this model.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys want to join us down there in Texas, let me know, because we can certainly help you set up a shop down there.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, Texas is a little bit different because we can't do contract for deed. And there's not that we can't. It's just that there's a lot of rules that we have to go by, and so it's not very favorable. Mm-hmm. And lease options is similar. So most people just stay away from that. So the closest thing of what we do is wraparound mortgage.
Okay. Yeah, that's not too off. I mean, it's in the same vein.
Right. Yeah. Well, the thing that costs a little bit more with wraparound mortgage is you have to close it at a title company.
Yeah.
And so all that extra cost that eats into your profit.
Yeah. I've heard Texas is really rough.
But I know one guy that still do a lot of lease option in Texas. Mm-hmm. Apparently, him and his attorney found out a way to make it work, but he's the only one that I know that still do like lease option on a normal lease option. Everyone else just do wraparound mortgages. Yeah,
that makes sense. Is that what your primary business is?
No, my primary business is wholesaling.
Okay.
And I use the if I do any wraparound mortgage, well, like when there was the tax credit that was going on, we did a lot of wraps because that $8,000 tax credit is how we make our money.
Okay.
So we didn't mind the cost from the title company,
right?
Because $8,000.
That $8,000 tax credit helped us too.
Yeah.
Because they are considered buyers, so they got the tax benefits in the installment sale.
Right.
That was really great.
Right. Yeah.
And it also helped to keep them, on the straight and narrow, because if they defaulted, they'd have to give it back.
Yeah. Exactly.
not a good thing to default.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, so we were doing that, but before all of the law changed, then yeah, we did quite a bit of lease options too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But okay, cool. So what are your goals for 2012?
I can't say I really have a lot of goals. I take that back. I'd like to at least do one deal a month with rent to own market. I'd like to at least do, one deal a month wholesaling. I'm also in the process of trying to get lines of credit, to procure additional buy and hold assets. So I'm working on that too. So I've got, several mini projects going on in the same time, all directed in that way. But, lots of different things. And I kind of just go with the flow too. I mean, I have goals, but I'm flexible. So if something more interesting or better comes up, I can shift. So I'm not really fully set on a specific path because there's always new opportunities.
Right, right.
And I don't want to close myself off to them if, maybe I'll make more money or it'll be more fun or, it's important to me to have fun doing this. And if I'm bored or, it's just not working in a way that it's enjoyable, I just don't do it.
Got it. Okay. So, well, what about long-term goals? What are your plans to change the world?
All right, I'm not changing the world. I know that. There's only one guy who can do that, and me.
Or make an impact in the world, make a difference in the world.
I think mentoring has helped a lot, like making a difference, bringing people into the fold with rent-to-own market. And I also kind of casually mentor wholesalers and other investors as well. And, I don't charge fees for that. It's just people that I come into contact with. I'm always happy to see them become successful. So that's important to me. But ultimately I want to be, a big property owner of, commercial real estate at some point. I'm not ready for that yet. My skill set is not ready for that right now. There's a local guy around here named Sherman Ragland. Do you know him?
No, I don't.
He's like the area guru. He's got a big RIA, and he has a slogan that says like, crawl, walk, run, win gold medals. And I think that's, the reality. So I'm walking and maybe running a little bit, but I'm not ready for that gold medal yet. So, it's going to take some time, and maybe I am. I don't know. But, I don't like to do things too quickly just because I don't want to make massive mistakes.
Got it. Okay. And what do you see as your areas of what do you see can help you, I guess, help you go faster or help you, expand more or toward your goals?
It's all about networking. I mean, that's the number one thing is if once you network well and you have a network of people, and I got to say, it took me 3 years to develop a network. You can do anything because you know who to call. So, if I want to do rehab, I have, 5 contractors that I know I could call. I prefer one that I've been working with, but I know them because I've met them. Or if I need commercial financing, I've met so many people who do commercial financing. I think it's really all about who you know. It's like that in every business, but in this business in particular, I think networking is extremely important, and that's how we grow rent-to-own market too. We find people who, would like to get involved in our business model by networking. So I think, if you take anything away from today's conversation, besides, what I've shared about our business model, networking is the number one thing you can do as a real estate investor to help you become more successful. And you also need to have something to say. So you have to be doing something. Maybe you're not doing it great. Maybe you're not succeeding yet, but you've got to have something to say when you talk to people. So, focus on something, pick something that you like. Perseverance is extremely important, and talk to people about it. And, sometimes you'll find experienced investors that don't want to talk to newer investors, and I think that's completely ridiculous. Because you don't know that newer investor isn't going to be, doing great a year from now, and They might be a great asset to you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I've seen that happen quite a bit.
But it's upsetting. You'll see someone with their nose in the air being like, well, I'm an experienced investor and oh, newbie, I don't want to talk to you because, I'm the experienced investor. But that's just the wrong way to approach it from my perspective.
Got it. Okay. And, are you familiar with the concept of mastermind groups?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so do you belong to any like mastermind groups?
Well, I consider my company at Rent to Own Market my mastermind group because I have, there's like maybe 5 or 6 of us that kind of hang around the office quite a
Okay.
bit. So that's my mastermind group. But I also have, several other real estate investor contacts that I've just built and some friends. And so if I have questions, I have people that I can talk to about it. I also am a member of District RIA they're actually they're all around the Beltway, but their main meetings are in Alexandria, and we host a meeting called Deals or No Deals. It's really a great meeting because we talk about deals, how they're structured. People can bring their deals to share with others. We usually have a pretty good turnout of 50 or 60 or 70 people, and that's my mastermind too because
Okay.
I have an opportunity to talk to those people. Month after month, the same people seem to show up, so that's an opportunity as well.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, and so I'm gonna give you a challenge here. If you
No.
were to if you were to lose everything, and you have to start all over again, you have no money, no credit, creditors are calling you every day, and you must make money within 30 days to feed your kids.
Hmm.
What would you do?
I'd probably go out and get a job, honestly. I really would. The only reason is because real estate can somewhat be unpredictable, right? So, like with my wholesaling business, I could, I guess I could, I could probably pick up. I mean, we made enough money last year that I could have fed my kids. So I don't know. I think the fear would make me go back to a job, though, just to have a steady income. Real estate investing isn't often a steady income. It doesn't mean you don't make a lot of money. It doesn't mean you don't do well. You know what? I'd probably go to rehabbing. That would probably be where I would go because I think that, that's more of a steady income than some of the other stuff that I do.
Okay. So number one, you would go get a job.
I go get a
So
job.
so that way you can get your peace of mind back,
Yes,
right?
exactly. I'm sorry. I've never been asked this question before, so I haven't really fully thought it through. But I probably would go get a job and do real estate investing on the side.
Okay. Okay. Well, I mean that's a great answer. You know that. Yeah. 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 So because I totally get that. You know, is that sometimes when we are so pressured with finances, we can't think straight.
Yeah.
Like even if we try, it's like it was like we're so bombarded with so many thoughts that we just can't think straight. And so having a job, getting a job gives you that peace of mind,
Yeah.
right? And then from that peace of mind, you can go and do real estate on the side and sort of like slowly.
That's kind of what we do now. I mean, my husband has a great job, and so if I don't make money for a month, which I do make money every month, but let's just say I have a bad month, I'm not that worried about it. We like having the income; it makes things easier, but it's not the end of the world for me. So I'm in a very unique situation. Most people don't have the opportunity that I've had because, either they're single and trying to do this on their own or, their spouse doesn't make a lot of money and they need this and we need it, but we would just have to cut back a lot without it.
Got it. Got it.
So
Okay.
I'm very, very blessed.
Got
I
it.
have a safety net. Now, if he lost his job, then all hell would break loose.
Okay. Got it. So what would you say? And I kind of got this with been talking to you for the last I guess 50 minutes or so here. Kind of realized this already. But what do you think is your biggest secret to success?
Having a team and networking. I mean, I think that's really it. And the other thing is perseverance. And I think I mentioned that earlier. A lot of real estate investors, and I did the same thing. But when you come into the business, there's like so many different things you can do. So many different things. You could wholesale, rehab, be a landlord, buy notes, wraparound mortgages, lease options, contract for deed. There's like 10 million, buy hotels, motels, trailer parks, all those different things that when you go into a RIA, you have someone pitching a different thing every month. And I don't think that you don't have to try different things, but you really need to stick to something. You just have to pick something and focus and persevere on it. Because if you don't, you're never going to succeed. You can't jump around from one thing to another. You have to find something that makes sense to you, get a mentor, get a team, get a coach, whatever it is, because all of these things work. But you just need to find one thing or two things that you're going to focus on and make them happen and then move on to the next.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I mean, yeah, focusing on one thing is so important, so critical. So you have to get yourself to that state of, you know what? I'm just going to focus on one. I'm going to just do that.
Yeah, I mean, I've done lots of things that have failed. Don't get me wrong. We all have. That's called learning.
Right.
And I was the schizophrenic real estate investor in the beginning too, because you hear all these things. Well, this doesn't seem to be working that well, even though I've only done it for a week. But that sounds better, so let's shift gears. And I'm not saying you have to stay focused on some one thing forever. You focus on something until you become successful at it, and then at some point maybe you get bored and try something else. Or you see something else that's a better opportunity, but you followed through on something and, was successful. And that's very, very important. And I see it all the time, just mentoring a lot too, of people who want to do 10 million different things. And you can't do that. It doesn't work. Right,
exactly. Well, awesome. That's yeah. I mean, the wisdom that you're sharing, it's great. I love it.
Thank you.
The advice you're sharing is great. Yeah, and I really appreciate you doing this interview with us.
No problem.
Yeah, so before we wrap it up, do you have a website or your Facebook? Where can people learn more about you and your company?
Well, I'm going to give you a couple. But my website is called www.rent, RENT2, own, OWN, markets, MARKET.com. That's our company website. I also have a personal website, which is www.turningleafproperties. Oh, no, what is it? turningleafva.com, and that's my wholesaling website, and I also advertise some rent-owned properties on there as well. And then I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn and probably every other social media website you could probably find out there.
So why don't you give them your name and the spelling of your last name so they know how to find you on LinkedIn and stuff.
Okay. My full name is Juliet, Juliet, Fogarty, Fogarty.
Okay.
And you can email me at julietfogarty, all one word, @gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Juliet, for everything.
No problem.
Yeah, it's been great. I love it. You've been very generous with your information and your advice, and I really appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah, that will definitely help, especially the newbie investors, a lot.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's hard out there.
Great. Well, thank you so much for this interview, and thank you everybody for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next interview. Bye, Juliet. Bye, everybody.
Bye.